So, welcome back to another almost European version of the Theatres of Dreams podcast. I'm Rod Maxwell, and joining me today is the one and only Harry Morell from Good Neat Soul on Radio Alti. How are you, Harry?
Oh, I'm not so bad, not so bad. Enjoying the football. What's left of it now because we've had the end of the Club World Cup and that sort of surprise of a final game, and then also obviously we've entered into the quarterfinal stages of the Women's Euros. It really is started to heat up a little bit in that competition. So I'm just trying to get my head around all these games and all these competitions and trying to sort of still scratch my head a little bit as to why the transfer market's so quiet or so dormant at the moment. But I'm sure we'll come into that.
Well, let's get into that. But let's start with the Club World Cup because I mean we've been wondering about this whole tournament, haven't we? And then it threw up a bit of a surprise at the end with Chelsea beating PSG 3-0. I mean, and it was a good beating as well, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. So obviously going into the final, we had PSG versus Chelsea. PSG reigning European champions. PSG had only conceded one goal
Yeah,
in the entire competition, and that one goal resulted in a loss in the group stages. So they were going in really as firm
favorites.
favourites. If I think myself, quite a lot of us on the podcast, and a lot of people in the media were sort of saying this is where European football is going for the next couple of years. This dominance. Who's going to be able to sort of fathom Luis Enrique's style of football? But clearly, Chelsea did on the weekend, and they came out winners in the competition. And now they're the first team to pretty much, I believe, have a full UEFA trophy cabinet, as they've got the Conference League, the Europa League, the Champions League. They've also now got the Club World Cup as well. It's definitely worth your money if you want to go and have a wander around Stamford Bridge now. Anyway.
And Palmer got a brace. He keeps on reminding us that he's one that got away from Manchester, doesn't he? A classy player is João Pedro. They actually scored all their goals in the first half. And Joe Nevis's red card in the 85th minute for PSG was really not impactful in the game at all. It was all over by then. You know what? It's interesting though. This has been quite a well attended tournament. I know that America doesn't see much football of this caliber, right? But I think
Mhm.
there was nearly 82,000 in the stadium for that final. That's good crowds, really.
It's a good crowd, but it was very much an Americanized version of the competition, Americanized version of the sport. I was watching it on the television, and Chris Martin popped up doing a halftime performance, and it was just one of those sort of things in my head. I was thinking, are the fans really coming in to see the football or to see Chris Martin? Because all the way through the tournament, right from the outset, the tickets and the attendance has been the big talking point, more so than the actual football itself, because they started off. Yes, the States is a very difficult place to sort of sell football tickets because I think it's the fourth most popular sport behind the likes of American football, baseball, basketball, etc. And they were charging ticket prices at full price still, whilst there wasn't still whilst all the schools are in. So by the time it got to the actual game, the day of, the tickets were being given away for free to try and fill them out. So I think it'll be one of these things where we will I'm sure we'll have an in-depth article, probably from the likes of the Athletic or someone like that, who actually breaks down the true numbers of how many people were there. But to be honest, I don't think FIFA or Chelsea will really be too fussed, because FIFA have had a successful tournament. It's well advertised for the World Cup, which is coming up in less than a year's time, because we've all seen all the stadiums and they look absolutely fantastic. And then also Chelsea have got a major £80 million in the back pockets. That's a pretty good play. You could buy the likes of, say, Harry Maguire from Leicester City if you wanted to. I doubt he's quite on their radar, but hey ho.
So let's just talk about the money because this tournament cost FIFA $1 billion to put on. That was the total prize pot. So that's just the prize pot actually. And the way that it got split between a participation fee for every club for just turning up, which probably for Chelsea it was around about 20 million pounds converted into pounds. Whereas somewhere like somebody like let's see Seattle Sounders got 7 million quid. Auckland team got 3.3 million for turning up. Okay. Chelsea then for winning it got an additional 62 million quid. So that's 84 million pounds in total for the tournament. But UEFA or FIFA went all in with a $1 billion prize pot for this. It's not a cheap competition, wasn't it?
No, it's not at all. But as we've seen, especially in this country, it's the law of money is something which a lot of teams can't refuse. Like we, I remember when we used to look at transfer windows, and they used to be really exciting because it was like, how much money is United going to put in? How much money are the big teams going to put in? But now everything's dominated by the likes of PSR and financial fair play. If you get a phone call from the head of FIFA saying you can earn yourself a cool £114 million for participating, and if you win it, you'd bite their hand off for it, because that will sort out a number of books, especially with Chelsea. You've got some very interesting business methods with the interesting contracts, etc. It's one of these things where I think it's sort of starting the sort of theme of where football is going. I know we had the Super League, which was very short lived, but this almost has that sort of feel about it. I know it's all based off the top two teams from each country over 4 years, which is a good concept. But it's one of these things where Chelsea really shouldn't have been in that tournament in the first place, especially the fact, if you look at the recent run of form, the only reason why they're in that competition was because they won the Champions League a few years ago. So it's one of these ones where it's this year we've sort of seen the groundworks and the sort of flavour of what we can expect. In 4 years' time, if they're going to follow this same concept, because clearly it's worked for them. It's not been perfect, nothing ever is. But I think it's one of these things where we will see a lot more teams participating or looking to that rather than European success. And I think United be very much doing that as well with the way that their finances currently lie.
Well, talking about finances and just, excuse me, looking at the prize money pot. Sorry for this now. If you take an example, so the Auckland team got 3.3 million. I think it was is it pounds? It's pounds. 3.3 million pounds for just turning up. Okay. And that was of their total revenue, that came to 676% of their revenue for the year. Right. So just by turning up, that has boosted their income massively. Chelsea, for winning it, take away in total 84 million pounds, and that is 16% of their revenue. Okay. So the interesting thing is Auckland City are going back to New Zealand with a major boost in their revenues, which means that they will massively be able to dominate or have an influence on their home league this year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is that while you could turn around and say it's spreading money down the pyramid on a global basis, you'd be really interested to see how much it's going to change the football dynamics in New Zealand. Because will that money get actually perforated down through the New Zealand structure, sort of pyramid, and actually. Kieran Maguire, who's an expert, football finance expert, said he's got concerns about the impact that amount of money, and it was only 3.3 million pounds. That amount of money flooding into the New Zealand league in one team will have a major impact on that league. So it throws up all sorts of other things, because spending $1 billion, £1 billion on one tournament by FIFA, that money's got to come somewhere, and it's been clearly worthwhile. Some teams just turning up, really,
Mm-hmm. It's at what cost is is this competition? Is it worth it? Because we're looking, especially, I know we've had the major talking point for a lot of managers is the condensed schedule, and we can see that. And if say for instance, like Manchester City, who played European football and they've played the domestic season, and now they've played this tournament as well. They're getting close to 70 games in one season, which is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. And you look at there was one of the biggest headlines was the Musiala injury, which I think he broke his tibular bone, and they were saying that one of the main reasons. I don't know if I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but they were saying a large proportion of that would be due to the strain of having so many games, and also you could argue, well, you shouldn't have been there anyway. So we're going to have this sort of discussion of where do we draw the line of how many games is too many games? Because
Yeah.
if you're a club who's struggling, and like Auckland City, you're saying they've made £3 million, which for them is massive.
Huge.
If you've got an opportunity to get that revenue as pure profits when it's through when it comes from tournament pots, that is pure profit. They don't have to worry about it. You're gonna sacrifice a few things, and you're gonna go and do it. So I think it's if you because football is now very much a brand sport. It's not to do with teams or anything like that. And this is what this tournament absolutely reeks of this sort of like brand of football.
It,
And
it it reeks of throwing money
mhm,
to break almost the structures of football at a league level, and it's almost like FIFA trying to illustrate their control over football on a world basis, so that the Champions League and the Premier League and other leagues like that don't don't feel like they are, in control.
mhm.
It's the amount of money that's been thrown around here is shocking. I mean, the 38 million that City won from it, or no, sorry, for just turning up, and they were in the last 16. That equates at the moment to 35% of their summer business they've conducted so far. So,
It's
again, you can see why they want to be in the competition.
definitely,
Mm.
and it's for City. It's they went out quite strong as well. They went out to Al Hilal, and which was a brilliant game, and we could it was sort of like rewriting the script. Really, we were expecting this sort of like European dominance, and then they were stopped in the tracks, and you could see with what Guardiola was trying to do, he could see the value of that tournament. I know we've been joking about, oh, if the BBC or ITV don't want it, there's no value in it. Well, just looking at these figures, it's eye-watering amount of money. It's yeah, I think it's one of these competitions where it's the previous iteration of the competition. It was just for a badge on the shirt, and that would be the main talking point. Is that, oh, that's nice, because United had it on there. Remember having a white away shirt when they won the equivalent of the competition. I think it was back in 2009, I believe. But with this competition now, this is going to stay long in the memory, because we'll be discussing how has it been a win for Infantino? Has it been a positive tournament, or has it just been a way to sort of, are we going to see it as sort of like a precursor to World Cup, a way of advertising the World Cup? Because that's done really well, because you've obviously, it's in America. It helps when the US president overstays his welcome and becomes the 12th man of Chelsea. And if Cole Palmer's face, I know he's had some classic one-liners, but his face, which was plastered on the front of the papers, was almost comedic. He's just sort of like dumbfounded as to why the American president was there. And it's watching it, it was just almost just laughable sort of thing. And then he even pocketed a winner's medal. I
So you
think.
just told me. So Trump basically did a bit of a quick one into his pocket.
So he was on the stage. Infantino tried to get him to move to one side, because that's the thing. Whenever it happens, is you can do what you want to do. You pass the trophy over, and then you step away and let the players celebrate. Infantino tried to grab him out the way, almost trying to get him off the stage, and he wouldn't move, and he was there with his celebration. So then once he actually left, he grabbed a medal, had a quick look at it, and put it in his suit pocket. So I think he's really going to profit from this tournament as is, and I think he'll be looking forward to the World Cup next season, because that's obviously going to be in the exact same stadiums. We've seen some of the, like, where the final was held at the MetLife Stadium. That looked absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of, because they've been talking about having a 9 a.m. World Cup final start because of the heat, because that's been a major thing which has been dominating. It was bad enough having the World Cup at Christmas, and all the summer calendar was thrown out the window. I was all discombobulated. I don't think I'll be getting up at 9 a.m. to watch a World Cup final. Maybe if England get there, and I'd hate to say I missed the World Cup final because I couldn't get out of bed, but we'll have to
Oh,
see if England can go
Harry,
that far.
Harry, you just lie in bed and watch it. Breakfast in bed with hopefully a win. But it was comical seeing Trump, and you got to say though, if you're FIFA, you sort of think to yourself, we're doing something right here because Trump is so keen to get in on the action. But I can't believe you told me today about him taking the medal, and I mean, oh my God, I mean, if I don't think anybody has ever done that in the history of medal presentations. He never stops surprising you, this guy. Yeah, but at the same time, because he was so enthusiastic about being there, that actually next year, the World Cup America, I think it'll be a huge deal. A huge deal.
I think it will be, and I think one thing you will see especially is you'll see this. you've seen it with the teams already. This sort of like this hammering of these brands, these like the PSG, the number of Real Madrid fans which have been at the ground, whether they're from America or from Madrid itself, you can sort of see this sort of like momentum building in the States. Obviously, the last time there was a World Cup played in the United States, England didn't qualify. This time, the team will be hoping they will do. But I feel like it's going to be a very different tournament. I think it's going to be it's going to be obviously what we expect normally, but very much with that sort of like American twist thrown on it. Like as I said, with the we had a halftime show, it kind of worked. I'm not quite sure but I'm sure we'll be seeing all that sort of stuff as well. But we've also seen a major investment into the MLS as well, because this is the other part of the World Cup you think about is you'd want to sort of show awareness to your league, and you've seen the likes of David Beckham investing into the competition. You've seen a number of players starting to move over to the MLS as well. It's not sort of like the career graveyard that it used to be. Obviously, we've also got the likes of the New York Cosmos, who used to have the likes of Pele, Cruyff, and Beckenbauer. They're reforming just in time for the arrival of the global eyes of the world watching American football. This time rebranded as just the Cosmos, but you can sort of started to see this shift. Towards a love for football, and there was even, I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw it on online, is that Trump's looking at using changing the phrase of soccer into football because he can with his presidential decrees or presidential orders. So it's I think he's all behind it. I think the money aspect helps as well, and I think that the having his face on the television helps as well for him being swayed. But I think it'd be an interesting competition, and it's just sort of counting the days down now because we're into the 2025-2026 season, which is obviously World Cup territory, and sorry, 2026, 2025, 26, yeah, and I can't wait. It should be good. Just hope that Tuchel could get us over the line through qualifying.
Well, before that, of course, we have the Euros, the women's competition. It's in the quarterfinals tonight, as we record this Wednesday, 16th, is Norway versus Italy at 8 o'clock. And then on Thursday night, at least for English fans, is the big one, Sweden versus England. And we'll come back and talk about that. Friday night, then it's the Spanish versus the Swiss. And then it is France versus Germany. And I guess the first thing you'd say about that are any surprises in the quarterfinal lineup, do you think?
I think with the biggest surprise for England fans is Sweden. I think that's the sort of name you would want to see further down the line, because they're monsters in this competition. They've performed really well in other iterations, and as we've seen with England so far, it's not been quite according to the script, with the fact that they were beaten in their opening game by France, which we've discussed. It wasn't really England of old, the team that we've come to know, and then sort of like the nerves are sort of calmed a little bit, and then obviously we had the big game, which was England versus Wales, and it wasn't quite the big rivalry we thought it was, because England went through quite comfortably. But I think it's Sweden's going to be a challenging game, I suppose. If you're sort of looking for the positive, at least if we get past them, they're out the way, and it should be a um, smoother run through. But I think with the performance that the Lionesses put down in their final game of the group stages, I think they'll be going into that game with a lot more confidence. Had it been the other way around, and the France game was the last game of the group
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
it always helps as well when you beat your local rivals in Wales. Because they before the competition, before the game even kicked off, you could see all of this sort of rivalry with the Wales fans singing "England's going home," a spin on the Three Lions. Obviously, they're not going home just yet, and hopefully, when they do come home, they'll be bringing football back with them. But I think that'll be one of the games of the tournament, this England versus Sweden clash, because Lauren James has been brilliant, and I can see her just dominating that game if the tactics are right.
And if you look, I'm just looking at the top scorers across the tournament, and England does well in terms of having a good spread of players. The Spanish look like they've scored the most goals, and two of their players are on four and 3 goals each. It's is it Emma Toon who plays for England is on 2, and Hurtig from Sweden's on 2. So it's all to play for. It is a huge game tonight. It is Norway versus Italy. I have no idea how that is going to go at all. And I see that the Norwegian captain Ada Hegerberg has urged her side to relish the moment. So they're taking on Italy in Geneva tonight at 8 o'clock. But a huge game for England, and yeah, you can't call it, can you, Harry?
No, not really. We came with the actual competition when England arrived into it. We had the discussions about major players not appearing, the shock retirements of Frank Kirby. We also have Mary Earps leaving the squad as well. So there's a little bit of that uncertainty. Then we've had the France game, which then added a little bit more uncertainty. But they've had 2 really good, solid games in the group stages. And if you compare it to 2022, which was their successful campaign, they may not be scoring as many, but they have progressed in the way that they wanted to. The sort of the biggest issue so far, which has been main focus, has been the defense, because it's going to be that's where we're going to really see what the game won or lost is how the back line lines up, and because Sweden are very, very dangerous going forward. So I think it'll be a great game to watch, especially for the neutrals. I can imagine a number of England fans will be sort of watching from behind covered eyes, depending on which way it could go. But as we say, it's competition football. It's 90 minutes. We could see another domination of one side or the other. It could be a nitty-gritty game, but that's what we love in the summer of sport, a good bit of knockout football.
I got to say, England look to be starting to cruise a little bit against Wales, and that could be the opposition and whatever. But at least you're getting in tournament football. We've often said it's about momentum. They've got some momentum going into that. So it's Thursday night, 17th of July, 8 o'clock. Sweden versus England. It is a huge game, and then following that, you've got next week are the semis on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the final, of course, is Sunday, the 27th of July at 5 o'clock. Come on, England. You can do it. I have no doubt about it. Right. Let's just turn to some transfer news. And first of all, Brentford, I think, have done a good bit of business in bringing Jordan Henderson in on a 2-year contract from Ajax.
Yeah, I think the business has been brilliant. I think the social media announcer got a little bit into hot water because I think he pressed click slightly too early because the post was very quickly deleted off social media. But this is the days of football announcements where you don't have reporters stood outside of grounds anymore. It's looking for the names of Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein popping up on your phone saying a transfer has been secured. But they've got their man in, Jordan Henderson. I think it's a great move for both club and player. The club, you'd sort of be hoping they're looking to sort of replace an outgoing player who still currently wears the red and white of Brentford. Maybe be wearing the red of United shortly if they ever sort the transfer out. But there we go. I'm still trying to manifest it. But then the other thing for the player as well is World Cup coming up. He's going to be wanting to try and sort of tease the idea or tease Tuchel about possibly putting him into that side. But the game, he moved away from the Saudi Pro League, went to Ajax, played okay, but didn't have the best performances. Hence why his contract was terminated by mutual consent. And I think Brentford, he could sort of suit that sort of style of football. And I think it'd be great to see Henderson back in the Premier League because he was sort of like a steadfast player for a number of years. And I think for United fans, they'll be most pleased to see a player coming into that club, hoping that a player will be coming out. But every time we do this podcast, Rod, we seem to be going no further with this Mbeumo deal. We keep talking about it, and yet it seems as though the player and the clubs seem to not be talking about it much more.
It's, you know what, it's been, I think, a really frustrating window. I'm not just talking about it from a United point of view. I'm just talking about generally. It hasn't built momentum. There hasn't been any of the theatre. Your man Jim White has hardly got excited in Sky, and he gets excited over a cup of tea. You know, it's you know, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the tournaments that have been on. Maybe it's just the market. I don't know, but you feel like, what are we? We're about 3 weeks away from the league starting again. About that, are we?
We've
I,
got exactly a month until the first Premier League game, but
there
then
you
also we're into that pre-season where United have got their first pre-season game against Leeds on Saturday, which obviously would be an important game, especially for Amrin because it's his first pre-season. We've been talking about this.
go.
Amrin, once he's got his system, we can see him playing that style. It'd be great. We've only had really one player who's come in so far, or two players in the likes of Cunha, and then also the centre back who really seems to be sort of like he's Amram seems to be sort of working from the back up. But it's a concern really, not only because we're not bringing players in for this
Not getting rid.
pre-season, we're not getting them out.
Nope.
We've got the famous five, or the frustrating five, should I say, who don't seem to be wanting to move, and it sort of seems like if we are going to sell them, and it's now a really big if rather than an actual genuine we are going to sell them, you sort of think it's going to be towards the end of the transfer window because there's all these conversations to do with wages and where they're going to go and the discussion between clubs. If I could have anyway, just sort of boot them out the back door and just sort of pay them
It,
off
it,
because
it,
it's
it is almost like it's getting to the point where it would be better for you to pay them to leave.
Mhm.
I heard this week that they are being allowed to go to Carrington from 5 o'clock in the day to do any sort of workout. You know what I'm expecting to hear next? I'm expecting to hear the next development of Carrington is going to be a set of cell blocks, and we're just going to lock players in who don't want to leave, and we're going to feed them gruel until they're prepared to leave on a free. It's
Mhm.
getting you can't get rid of these buggers, you know.
No, it's I don't know what it is. It's one of these things. I think there's obviously the interest. There's the interest there with the clubs. Anthony Real Betis went out on loan last season, performed very well in the
Yeah.
green and white. They clearly want him, and it seems to be the discussion on sort of like player evaluation. The other big thing is the wages as well, because that's the issue where United have sort of they've not quite stood on the rake, but they've shot themselves in the foot because they're paying them such extortionate wages. A team aren't going to want to pay the tremendous amount of money because, as we've seen, they've not proven to be the players that United thought they were when they first brought them in. Rashford, I guarantee you now, you could probably put money on where these players are going to go, but the crucial thing is we don't know when they're going to go or how they're going to go.
And you know, as much as people like David Ornstein and others have got good insight, do we really know why the Mbembo deal? I've got that. It's Mbembo, isn't it? That deal hasn't gone through because it seems like the money on the table seems about right. And Mbembo was happy with his contract terms, but it almost is. It's almost like they're playing a bit of risk, or they're leaving everything to the last minute, and then they feel like that will increase the urgency and the amount of money that people are prepared to pay. But the problem is, unless you've got some money coming in, you can't necessarily spend money. So
Mhm.
it's going to mean those last couple of days. I'll tell you, Jim White's not going to be able to sleep. The man's going to be up all night. There's going to be that many deals coming in the last minute.
It's going to be like a university student, just high on different forms of caffeinated beverages. But it's one of these things where, if you look at the sides, you got Brentford and you got United. Brentford are going to be very much in this sort of the confident position because they know United have got the money in the back pocket. If they really wanted to, they can overspend. We've seen it with, well, the original fee I think was meant to be something like 50 million or something plus add-ons, and now it's rose to 60 million. They'll be sort of trying to prod the bear and see how much they can get from him because they've obviously just lost Thomas Frank. So if they kept Mbeumo, that'd be good for them because then is a decent player they can rely on for another season, whilst the new manager who's come in can sort of find their feet. But it's United. It's sort of desperate, really. It's painful to watch this transfer window because all of last season we've been going. If we just go big in on we need to get a striker, we need to get a midfielder, we need to get a goalkeeper. And we just keep saying these things. We know what we want, but we just don't see any movement whatsoever. You would have been thinking you would have been thinking it's like when you're a uni student trying to find a flat. Second year, you just want somewhere and you can go right. We can make this a home. We can make it nice. It can be in the middle of in the middle of nowhere and it could be run down, but you make it nice. It just feels like United are waiting for that sort of gem to come. But then with the likes of PSR, financial fair play, and also the fact that we can't shift 5 players, it's sort of getting into very dire straits.
No, let's just stay on United for a minute because our keeper has possibly, as I mentioned, I think a few minutes ago, with this injury, has possibly made things a bit easier to get somebody in, or at least manage a swap in. And um, I still think that Martinez is the player that will come to United. I mean, I've heard or read somewhere there could be a swap deal with Garnacho, but of all the players around, I still think that he's got the. I think he's got good technique, but I think he's got the character to come into United. But that doesn't seem to be any closer at the moment.
No, it's. I'm still not sold on Martinez as of yet. I know that he's
And
won on the international stage. I know he's won a World Cup, brilliant. But then, like, if you look at when we've brought in World Cup winning goalkeepers in the likes of Bartes, he's gotten down and he's bald head. It may have been a lucky sign, but it wasn't kissed enough because he wasn't great between the sticks. He's an interesting character. I think also with his credentials and also Villa, they're in the Europa League this season. They're looking to have a good run in there, possibly even win the competition. They're going to want some significant money in for Martinez as well, so they can sort their line out. I think someone that I'm surprised that we didn't go in for was someone like Kepa Arrizabalaga, who was playing in Bournemouth last season. Very, very good between the sticks for them. He's obviously had difficulty trying to find a club. Now he's put his signature down for Arsenal, and they've secured his services. Maybe he would have been a good shout for a goalkeeper. He's obviously won the Champions League. He's seen a lot of European football. A little bit more confidence between the sticks, and he's good with his feet as well. Someone else who I thought we could have gone in for maybe would have been Ramsdale with that sort of like yellow sticker sort of deal, cheap. But I think he wants to try and go for the most relegation record or something because I think he's signed for a relegation threatened squad. I don't know. I can sort of see, just like with United's window, I can see like Anana's going to sort of epitomise the window. We'll say we're going for someone. We'll leave it to the last minute, and the board will look around and go, "We've got no money. Yeah, it'll do. We'll keep him on for another year." It just seems like that's the way that the transfer the transfer ideology is going at United at the moment.
I'll tell you one deal that really caught my eye, and I like the deal, and I think it's an interesting story. It was Modric moves from completed a move to AC Milan, a free transfer after 13 years at Madrid. He was at Tottenham before that, was he not?
Yeah,
Modric?
that was the one.
And he's 39, and you sort of think if ever there was a sign of how football's changing, he's not just moving to any club, he's moving to AC Milan at that age. Quite incredible. And just goes to show, if you're one of those players that keeps yourself fit, you've got natural ability, my God, you still be playing top level football at his age. It's quite incredible.
It really is. I think Serie A is going to be the league to watch next season because we've seen De Bruyne go there already. We've seen McTominay go over there, and he's sort of become a
Yes.
god of Napoli football
Yes.
at the moment. He's
Yes.
performing brilliantly well. Maybe we should get sort of like a deal struck. I'm not saying it's quite a political deal, but as United will go, look, we'll lend you all of our first 11 team for 6 months. Make them like McTominay, and then we'll have them back, and then we'll pay you a fortune for it. I think that's what we need to do. But it seems to be, I think I think we're seeing a shift in footballers, especially if you just sort of if you look at them on sort of like if you look at Rooney, for instance, he's the same age as Ronaldo. You look at Ronaldo, you look at Rooney,
Yeah.
and you're starting to see this trend where players are playing longer, they're keeping themselves fitter, and they're still proving themselves to be pretty decent footballers. I think Modric, I think it's a shame he bowed out in the way he did at Real Madrid because obviously if they'd won the competition, it would have been the fairy tale ending. But he's had a fantastic career for Los Blancos, and I think he performed really well in AC Milan. and it'd be just interesting to watch how that league goes, because it's sort of it's been a very different style of football to what we expect in the Premier League, and that sort of physicality. But then you can see that sort of magic of Serie A. I think that that would be definitely a league that I'll be keeping at least one eye on to see how, of course, Scott McTominay, because I'll always have a piece of him in my heart, but just
Mm.
sort of seeing how they fare, and then maybe thinking maybe we should send Hoyland back to Italy for a few months, get a suntan, remember how to score a goal or two. I think maybe that's the winning combination. Maybe we need to move Carrington from where it currently stands to the shores of an Italian lake somewhere, or maybe I'm just
Carriga.
that's the one.
Carriga. I'll tell you what's interesting also about the Modric story, and it's the lure of the World Cup, because I don't think, I think after the World Cup next season, he might well retire, he might play for another one, but you could tell that playing for Croatia, it means something to him. And
Hmm.
that World Cup next year, he wants to stay fit. He wants to be playing at the best. And the move makes absolute sense. But I thought it was an unbelievable story when you think of, you take Wayne Rooney. I don't think Wayne Rooney, is he 40? He's about 40 now, maybe. But,
Just touching, yeah.
you
It's
know, I mean, it just goes to show that there's certain players and from certain lifestyles, from certain attitudes, and played in certain positions where they can stay fit. I think Modric signing at 39 is a free transfer, but he's going to be playing for AC Milan. I mean, it's not a two-bit club at all. I love that story. And the other story I picked up this week was Isaac to Liverpool. Is this a done deal now?
it seems to be moving that way. You can it was as if you ask a number of people, Magpies fans, they'll be saying, yeah, the last thing they want to do is see Isak move away. Um, but they're now looking at trying to refine the replacement, and names are starting to appear. Normally, there's no smoke without a fire, and it sort of seems like Newcastle, I think the player would possibly like to move there as well. I'm not. It's one of these things where I think we could very much see a transfer in a couple of weeks, because if the club is trying to find a replacement already, that sort of normally gives you an indication of what the attitude is around the transfer. And I think if Isak went to that Liverpool team, working with the likes of Salah, I think he would be. I'm not saying he's not a brilliant player already, but we'll see him fly up those goal scoring tally sheets. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see as a United fan, and going over to Anfield and seeing him in the red of Liverpool, possibly banging a few in for them. Be a difficult watch, but I think he'll thrive over on Merseyside, definitely.
Yeah, and again, it could be one of those transfers that starts to unlock things. And I mean, Liverpool, like any team, needs signings. They're still, I mean, still trying to get the terms with what happened to Jota, Harry.
It's one of those things that was a really moving tribute at their first
Yes.
pre-season game at Preston North End, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the entire house. I think that is going to be. The club have now retired the number 20, and I think that he will be an integral part. I know he is no longer with us, but he'll be an integral part of that Liverpool team if they do go on and win that league again. Because just thinking, what, 3 months ago he was there at Anfield lifting that Premier League trophy, and then he for Portugal he was lifting the Nations League. He was a brilliant player, and you could sort of see that obviously it's still so raw. You can sort of see that the number of players will be fighting for the memory of Jota, and it's such a shame. It's one of those stories that you never want to read and you never want to
No,
discuss. And just
no.
hopefully we won't have to do it again for an awful long time. But I think it's going to be incredibly difficult boots to fill. But I think Liverpool, with their squad, they will be able to create some magic for Diogo, and they'll still give a good running in this season's Premier League, which, as we keep mentioning, is only a month away. So we're just waiting for that sort of spark, that sort of first transfer to get the ball rolling. As a United fan, you'd hope it's the Embuemo deal, giving us plenty of time to make sure we're pronouncing his name right. But I don't think anyone is. That's why we haven't secured the signature yet. But I think we're into the 16th of July, the day that we're recording it. The first game kicks off on the 15th of August, I believe. So we're getting very close to crunch time, and hopefully we can see that transfer market unlock in some way or another. Because if United field the team that we currently have, I feel like it could be a very long season, especially
Oh,
seeing as though we've got Arsenal first game of the season.
yeah, and indeed. And finally, then, have you seen the news of what's got Crystal Palace supporters understandably energized and fuming, really, which is that they had qualified for the Europa League by winning the FA Cup in May. And then they've been demoted down to the lower tier UEFA competition, which is the Conference League, which I understand is because of some complications with their ownership structure. Do you know anything more about this?
Yeah, I do. It's one of these things which you as a fan, you'd never expect to actually see happen, because there's always talks about this multi-ownership sort of thing, because it's no longer is it one person owning one football club. You've got people with fingers in so many different pies, and this person, the person who's responsible for this, is the American businessman John Taxter, who owns a stake in Crystal Palace and also, crucially, the French club Lyon, who have both qualified for the Europa League. And what it is uh, you can't have two clubs who are owned by the same person in the same competition. We saw that with Notts Forest with their owner. He had to sell his shares in Olympiacos so that Nottingham Forest could qualify for European football. There is still a possibility that this could get overturned, but it's just such a sad story, because this is the first time that Crystal Palace have won a major piece of silverware, and how it has always been is if you win the FA Cup, you qualify for the Europa League, and it would have been a fantastic competition for for the Eagles to compete in. They could have had a really good run in it, and also it's the finances as well. Playing in European competition, that's a lot. That's a big boost heading to Selhurst Park. So I think we would like to see it overruled, because obviously Lyon's had its difficulties with finances. They've been relegated to League Two, then they've risen back up to League One. It's a very, very difficult thing to try and figure out. I just hope, and I'm sure looking at the protest yesterday, there's thousands of Crystal Palace fans who will be hoping that this will be overturned, because really it should be what happens on the pitch, not what happens in the boardrooms. And as we keep saying, this is the way that football is going, and it's ruffling an awful lot of feathers, and in not a good way. And pardon for the pun about the feathers and the Eagles there. Tried to slip it in.
Do you know what it smells like to me? It smells like UEFA are trying to send a message through a smaller club and to the bigger clubs, which is
Mm.
basically mess with us and we'll mess with you. And it feels like they've picked on Palace because they feel that they've got a better chance of making this stick. And then it sends a message to the bigger clubs. And not, sorry to say, but Crystal Palace are not the biggest club in by Premier League status or even European status. But it just feels like this, and it just feels like it's so unfair. If you're going to apply that, you got to be really consistent. Finally, actually, I just on the subject of money, which is what we were talking about before. City have apparently agreed a £1 billion kit deal with Puma. It surpasses United's contract with Adidas. It seems, you know what, Harry? It seems like we talk money. There's a money league, and we talk money more than we do football sometimes. But it's worth 1 billion, and it's huge. Basically, it's the biggest deal of English football, eclipsing United's £900 million deal with Adidas in 2023. It's just huge. So that'll pay for a few more players or maybe a few more fines, Harry.
Possibly, possibly. I think with the kit deal, I think we can sort of see it coming for a long time. With Manchester City being in so many competitions on so many global stages, they're the
Exactly.
team to buy into. Puma, to be honest, I've had some rather questionable kits, especially the very, very poor um, third shirt a few years ago. It was just Manchester City written across the front. Last season, they performed a little bit better, bringing back some classics. But whilst we're talking about football kits. Today is the day that United have released their away kit, and to be honest, I'm not a fan. I'm not going to be rushing to the Megastore. Well, I haven't been rushing for the Megastore for a number of years, but it has a look of it. The best way to describe it is when you told when you told as a kid, never put a red sock in the washing machine with a white
Oh
load. It
no.
feels as though they've done that, but it's a white shirt with like a lilac sort of effect on it, and it looks really really poor. I suppose there was discussions last season of if United got relegated, we'd lose the Adidas shirt deal. Maybe this year it would have been a good idea because the kits so far haven't been spectacular. But I am holding out for that third kit because they're going to try and recreate the infamous black away shirt, which Cantona kung fu kicked a Crystal Palace fan. I think that would be the one that everybody would be drawn to. But let's just say the away shirt, I think it's slightly a sight for sore eyes. Well, that's in my view anyway.
It lacks complete imagination from what I can see here, and it'll only cost you 120 quid, by the way, if you want one. It's authentic. It's an away kit, only 120 quid. How many days in the building site do you need to work out to be able to afford that? Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. And then I have a finally, by the way. I want to get in Sorry Miss Jackson, that song, because apparently we're in for Sorry Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea. So if only to basically come up with a decent chant for him. I have no idea if he's any good, but apparently we're looking at him. But sure, we're looking at everybody at the moment. Harry, but the only person they're not looking at is me, and that's because I've got two left feet and I'm 54 years of age. But if I could get in some Instagram followers, they probably would be interested in me. But there you go. Right, we'll leave it there. Good to see you. Harry, we said we hadn't much to talk about. We've just done 45 minutes. It's either Champions League discussion or a bunch of crap. But sure, it was lovely to see you again.
Cheers, Rod. It just sounds like United through and through there. It's just instead of the Champions League, we've got a load of crap instead. But hey, bring on next season.
There's always next season, Harry. Take care.
Take care. Cheers.